don't know if I'm in focus. The video is probably crooked because this camera looks crooked. And either it's crooked or I'm crooked, and either one of those could be true, but we're gonna go with it. We're gonna go with it. And if it is crooked, I am so sorry. Like, I promise you, you will not hate it as much as I will hate it having to stare at it for hours during editing. But anyways, this video is brought to you by these two comments. And I originally wanted to wait to make this video until Promising Young Woman came out because that was my most anticipated watch of the year. After Black Widow, of course. But it is not out on digital yet, and I am not going to sit in a movie theater. It's just not happening. So I'm just gonna film this video anyways. Now's as good a time as ever. And maybe I'll do another video purely on Promising Young Woman when it comes out. I don't know, but I can't keep waiting. So we're gonna film this. And yeah, I didn't watch as many movies as I originally wanted to at the start of the year, but you know what? 2020 was a weird as heck year. So that's alright. We're gonna rank the ones I did watch. So without further ado, here is every single movie released in 2020 that I watched in 2020, ranked from worst to best. Let's go. Starting at the absolute bottom, we have Endings Beginnings, which, yes, I only watched for Sebastian Stan, but let me tell you, it was a disappointment. It was a disappointment. He could not save this movie. My letterboxd review, back when I watched it, basically sums it up. It is a very aesthetic film. It is. Sebastian looks amazing in every outfit, but the plot is a hot mess. And the main character, in my opinion, she's not done justice. So I am ranking it dead last, and I am very sorry, Sebastian Stan. It just, you could not save it. You couldn't save it. I'm sorry. And I feel like no one will be surprised at this next one, but Artemis Fowl, I feel like doesn't even need an explanation. It was another hot mess. And I understand that film adaptations need to take liberties with the source material because obviously movies and books are two completely different mediums, two completely different things going on. But this film completely butchered all of the characters. Every single one. Like, everything was butchered. It was a hot mess. I feel like the writers did not understand core concepts of the books, which, like, when you're adapting, you probably should try to bring the core concepts over to the movie at least, like, at the bare minimum. And like I said in the movie commentary I did way back when, this book series was one of my favorites as a kid, so I was just incredibly disappointed by how this turned out. And speaking of movie commentaries where you can slowly see me lose my mind as I watch the film, Happiest Season comes next. And it kind of pains me to put it so low just because from what I've read, the director pulled a lot of her own personal experiences and put a lot of herself in the film. But personally, I was just very disappointed when watching it. And like, there were aspects of this film I enjoyed. Like, I think the comedy was on point, or at least it landed with me. The cast did an amazing job. Like, Kristen Stewart, Aubrey Plaza, incredible. And there was even a really good speech about coming out, but personally I just couldn't move past how toxic a narrative it ended up being by the end. And honestly, it may just be the most painful Christmas movie I have ever sat through. Like, it was just so frustrating to watch. But I do know a lot of people loved this film. They thought it was an amazing Christmas movie, and you know what? Good on them. It just didn't work personally for me. And the next film, which I am considering slightly better only because it was a little bit less painful to sit through, is Almost Love, which I admit I watched mainly because it starred Scott Evans and also had a gay romance at the lead of it, and I was like, oh heck yes. I really wish I could love this. I really wanted to love this, but honestly some of the plot lines with a few of the characters were a little bit questionable to me, and personally the humor never really landed, although that could be because it's targeted to 30-year-olds. And maybe if I rewatch this in 5 years, I'll find it funny. You know, who knows? But in the meantime, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. Next up, we have Ammonite. And yes, I am incredibly frustrated that all of the queer movies I was so excited about ended up being really rough to sit through. I am very frustrated, but that's fine. It's fine. I'm fine. I'm just gonna be over here writing my own queer movie because apparently you gotta do it yourself if you want it done right. Like, it's fine. It's fine. I'm fine. But back to the movie. Ammonite might possibly be the most disappointing watch of 2020 for me, mainly because I was so excited to see it. I love historical fiction, and I was so excited for some women-loving women front and center in this film, but it all just fell completely flat for me. I genuinely think if you condensed the script of this 2-hour-long film down to just the dialogue, it would be only about 5 pages. Maybe 5 pages. And while it was gorgeously shot and had some beautiful cinematography, especially that closing frame, I really loved that one, it had nothing else going for it. Really nothing else going for it, and I just, can we get someone else to write this exact same concept, like with Saoirse Ronan and everything? Can we get someone else to do this concept? And not to spoil anything, but I just feel like the ending, he didn't really know what to do with the characters. I'm still very disappointed. Don't mind me in my time of grieving. And yes, I am putting Work It ahead of Ammonite, even though Ammonite probably will be nominated for some type of Oscar. But Work It was genuinely fun. Like, it was an enjoyable watch. And when I finished this film, I did not feel like I wasted 2 hours of my life, which is more than I can say for any of the films prior in this list. And next up we have Valley Girl, which might be a controversial placement in this list, but you know what? I had a lot of fun watching this one too. I genuinely enjoyed watching Chloe Bennett sing, and the lead romance felt authentic to me. And you know what? It was a fun ride, and sometimes that's all that matters when you're trying to escape the hell year that was 2020. You know? And a little bit less of a fun ride and more of a very weird one was French Exit, which I watched as part of the New York Film Festival digitally, which was really cool. I'm a huge fan of magical realism, and I kind of really dug the concept of a woman trying to escape her life and live out the rest of her days in Paris. But some parts of this film felt hard to connect with, and some of the main characters just felt hard to care for, at least for me personally. I'm ranking it higher than Work It and Valley Girl, even though I had more fun with those, mainly because of my curiosity over it and the fact that I haven't been able to stop wondering about what it means since I watched it in October. And I honestly feel like if I set an alarm to rewatch this film in 10 years, I could probably appreciate it a little bit more, or at least come out of it feeling different things and thinking different things. Like, it's certainly interesting, and I love its obsession with death. It's very up my alley, but I don't know, something about it just felt kind of off. And you know what, I'm still wondering how I feel about it, so that's that. We're moving on. I can, however, confidently say I loved Feel the Beat, and yes, it is a generic feel-good movie with cliched plot lines. But you know what? Sometimes you just need to see a girl try to escape her hometown and make it on Broadway. Sometimes you just need to see that. So you know what? This movie, it had heart, it was inspiring, it had an amazing cast of cute kids trying to come into their own and grow up. It had some amazing character development, and it had a romance at the heart of it that didn't make me want to puke. I actually wanted to root for them. Like, that's all you need sometimes. I watched it twice. I loved it both times. I think Sophia Carson is absolutely amazing. I'm very excited to see where her career is going post-Disney. And you know what? I loved it. So moving on, we've reached the top 10, and I swear I keep flip-flopping between like the heavy movies and the fun movies, because let me tell you, The Boys in the Band, it sounds fun, it is not fun. I genuinely don't think I've ever felt as emotionally drained watching a film as I did at the end of this one, because this one takes a toll. It really does. I think it did an amazing job at painting a portrait of what it meant to be a gay man in the 1960s, and every single member of the cast was incredible. Like, their dynamic was amazing. Seriously, each actor bounced off of each other, and it was so incredibly dynamic and engaging to watch. It felt like I was watching a stage performance, which personally I really appreciated considering most of the theaters are shut down this year, and I don't think there was a single weak moment in this entire film. However, I do think there were a few things that certain characters said that did not need to be said at all, and a few of these characters were treated like legitimate crap. And it makes it very hard to get through this movie, especially if you can't stand secondhand embarrassment. Like, it's very difficult to get through this movie. Not because it's bad, but because your anxiety it skyrockets. Like, literally my anxiety was through the roof. Like, this was not a good movie to watch if you were already in a slightly bad mental state. Like, it is not. But I did really enjoy the individual portrayals of all of these men just trying to exist, both within and also outside of society, at a time when the weight of society's hatred is so heavy to bear, and you just want to love yourself. You know? So yeah, I don't know, even though I felt absolutely wrecked by the end of it, I really enjoyed that aspect of the film, and also it made me really miss hanging out with friends. So, you know. Next up we have Soul, which I feel like everyone and their mother has already talked about and heard about, so I'm not gonna give a long explanation here. But I enjoyed it. Like, I think it was a solid Pixar film. Personally, I thought it was a bit odd that they chose to rely on the black character turns into an animal trope, which just feels very outdated, old, and unnecessary. So it's not my favorite Pixar film. Like, the ending felt a bit rushed to me. I wish we got more of Joe as himself living his life. Like, I think that would have been really cool, because I feel like the first few minutes of that film were exciting. Like, personally, I was very excited about this teacher teaching jazz to his students, trying to inspire them while also trying to take gigs and live his own life. Like, that was super cool to me. And then we didn't get much of that, so that was kind of disappointing. But it's okay. I really enjoyed the comedic elements of this film. I felt like the humor felt very 2020. Like, it was very up to date, and I mean, it wasn't bad. Next up is Birds of Prey, which was my second to last movie I ever saw in theaters, and it honestly, It feels like a lifetime ago. It genuinely feels like a lifetime ago. I did thoroughly enjoy it, although I will say it was only the second DC film I'd ever seen after Wonder Woman, and there were parts of it that I didn't necessarily vibe with completely. Like, there was a lot of violence. It felt very Deadpool-esque, but I think that's just the nature of the film. And I'm sure I missed out on a lot of the lore and the backstory because I just don't know the DC universe like at all. But I love basically everything else about it. Like, I loved the dynamic and the energy between all of the leading ladies. I loved the cinematography. Like, holy shit, the color palette, jaw-dropping, gorgeous. Like, ooh, I loved it. I thought the script was great, and there were so many little subtle moments that felt like you could tell that there was a woman behind this movie. Like, that little hair tie line was so small, it really flies under the radar, but you know what? For some reason, it just felt so personal to see that presented on screen. Like, it felt comforting to hear that hair tie line. Like, someone thought of the hair. So, I don't know how to explain it. It just felt like we were in good hands and everything was gonna be okay. And seriously, I think Margot Robbie knocked it completely out of the park. Like, holy shit, her acting is insane. Like, she is amazing. So yeah, I seriously love this film. And honestly, I would probably say it was the most gorgeous film I saw this year, except for the fact that I also watched Emma, which is next on the list. And this movie might just be the most gorgeous film I've ever seen in my entire life. So there's that. Emma is my favorite Jane Austen novel, and I seriously love this adaptation. Like, I think Anya Taylor-Joy did an amazing job. And personally, I really like how it balanced the humor and the seriousness together. And you know what? Sitting on that picnic, I felt Emma's words like a slap across the face. Like, you are in this movie when you watch this movie. Like, it is gorgeous and I genuinely enjoyed it. Next up, we've got Enola Holmes, which honestly I did not expect to enjoy as much as I did, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good balance of emotional storytelling and entertaining fun, and this movie did not need to go as hard as it did, but it did. Like, damn, it did that. Like, it had decent stakes, great pacing, an intelligent storyline that actually had plot twists, and it had ties to history. Like, seriously, I'm pretty sure Helena Bonham Carter just proved the existence of, like, a suffragette Enola Holmes cinematic universe with this movie. Speaking of Helena Bonham Carter, who I 100% watched this film for, was amazing. Stole every scene she was in. Like, I'm not gonna turn this into a fangirling over Helena Bonham Carter video, but she was amazing. I also gotta say, I really appreciate how Sherlock was presented. Like, I think they just did a really good job at fitting Enola Holmes into the Sherlock universe. And honestly, maybe this should have been BBC Sherlock season 4. You know? Did we need Eurus? No. Did we need Enola? I don't know if I could say no to that one. You know, I felt like it was actually a really good movie. Anyways, I had fun. Next up we have The Banker, and I am pretty sure you can tell by now that I love historical fiction, but Anthony Mackie and Samuel L. Jackson, like, they did amazing. Their energy together on screen is incredible. They play two men who are helping to reshape the housing market and put an end to segregated neighborhoods, and it is so good. Like, the two of them together breathe so much life into this film. It is dynamic, it is engaging, it is fun to watch. It feels real. Nicholas Holt's in it too. He does well, I gotta say though. Samuel L. Jackson and Anthony Mackie are definitely the stars of the show. And you know what? This movie's got a math learning montage, which I'm a sucker for. You put a math learning montage in, I'm like, oh yes, I'm sold on that movie. Anyways, it was enjoyable, it was educational, and the fashion was on point, so I loved it. Next up is The Assistant, which might just be the only thriller I've watched that takes place essentially in just one office workday. This movie wrapped itself around me, and I am pretty sure I felt every single emotion that character felt throughout this movie. This was visceral, emotional, authentic, and so powerful. Like, I didn't watch this movie, I lived this movie, and there are still women today who are living this movie every single day. I love how it built and handled the tension as the film progressed, and honestly, I felt legitimately sick to my stomach by the end of it. Seriously, this movie makes you feel things, and then want to go and change the world, because holy shit is it a mess. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think the main actress did an amazing job at carrying us through a day in the life of her character, and this was so expertly well done. Like, I really enjoyed it. And next up we have The Half of It, which if you watch the movie commentary, you will know I absolutely genuinely loved. Like, this is my type of coming of age movie. Like, 100%. Inspired by Cyrano, which is definitely a play I fell in love with this year, but written from the perspective of a queer teenager just trying to figure herself out. Like, this was incredible. It had a strong platonic friendship at the heart of it. It had pining, it had wrestling with being gay in a small religious town, and probably my favorite part, it did not shy away from referencing any and all things literary. Like, it took the fact that it was inspired in part by Cyrano and it ran with that. And like, instead of going the catfishing angle, which some of the other Cyrano adaptations have been known to do, I feel like it went for a more authentic look at the play, in which it's more about a man wrestling with self-hatred and just trying to love the person he loves, but trying to overcome his own self-doubts at the same time. And I feel like it really captured that so well. And I just really love how Alice Wu decided to build every single one of these characters. I love how she framed basically every scene. There are so many good things to catch in this film, and there are so many metaphors and allegories. Like, she's an expert filmmaker. Like, I love her. Like, this was such a good film. This was such a good film. And coming in at number 2 on the list is Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, which is not the loudest of films, but man, does it say a lot. I feel like everyone who's ever taken an art class knows the importance of negative space to the final piece, but I have never seen a movie utilize negative space in the same way that this film does. It is so well done. And the storyline is simple. Young girl travels to New York City to get an abortion because it's not allowed in her area. And yet this film is so gripping, so heartfelt, and it's just so accurate a portrayal of what it means to exist as a woman in this world. It showed the quiet yet powerful resilience of women, of female friendships, and it is such a heavy-hitting film filled to the brim with emotion, the quiet invisible connections that sort of connect us to humanity, just like the support of a female network out there, even if you don't know the person. Personally, I really loved it. I think everyone needs to see this film, and even though there isn't that much dialogue in the film, it actually is going somewhere with the characters as opposed to Ammonite, and it has a purpose. Like, everything is purposeful, everything is intentional, it is powerful, and it is such a good film. Every single shot says something, even if there's no dialogue. Like, it's just so good. It's just so good. Which leaves us with my favorite film of 2020, the 40-year-old version. And I feel like Netflix did not market this film as well as it could have, because this movie is incredible and I didn't really see that many people talking about it. I personally really love stories that remind us it's never too late to become who you are or start the things that you love, and you're never too old to figure out what you want with your life and figure out your future. This is a film that feels incredibly authentic about a woman nearing 40 who's trying to figure her life out, trying to live up to the expectation she has of herself and how she thought her future would go, and it is done so well. I loved all of the small little moments that built her character up, like how much she cares about the students that she's teaching, or how much she values her work's authenticity. I love the passion she has for rapping, and I love her dedication to expressing her voice no matter what. The writing is stellar, and I feel like she captures so much so well. Like, she captures the hypocrisy of humans, the weight of society's expectations, the feelings around aging as a woman in a creative industry, the creative industry as a whole, and the desire to fully own your own work, mixed with the pain of having to compromise so you can afford to eat. This film is incredible. It is funny and it seriously feels alive. You feel like you're actually in this movie, living this life with this character. Like, it's really good. I really loved it. And then a little bonus 1.5 ranking, because this doesn't technically count as a film, but it is the last thing I watched in a movie theater, so I want to put it on this list because it was fantastic. But basically, I watched the National Theatre's live stream of Cyrano starring James McAvoy performing at the West End, and holy shit was it amazing. It was amazing. Like, straight up, it was incredible. James McAvoy gives an absolute powerhouse of a performance. He is fantastic. He is just, the way he handles the script and the way he gives his lines with so much passion and emotion and rage and anger and grief, like, ooh, it is fantastic. This man is probably one of the greatest actors of our generation. I don't know if I'm in the same generation as him. I don't think I am, but that's fine. I don't know at what age you can say that phrase, greatest actor of our generation. Anyways, off topic here, I really loved this. It is a modernized adaptation of the play, which I personally think they just did absolutely fantastic. Instead of being old with feathery hats, etc., they settled with a no prop approach, no costume approach, and they put the power 100% on the words and the language used. They adapt it with rapping, with poetry, like, they completely modernize it, and it works so well. I have never seen a better page-to-stage adaptation. Like, oh. My greatest regret in life is that I didn't get to see this live. I didn't get to see it in person. And I have to die knowing that. Anyways, it is really good. If post-pandemic they decide to actually make this live, because I was gonna buy tickets for it in May because he was gonna come to Brooklyn, I will 100% be there. You will see me in that audience. Like, ooh, you will. Oh god. If they ever stream it live again, like, y'all should watch it. It is so good. It's amazing. You will not regret watching this. Like, I left the theater and I did not even realize that 2 hours of my life had passed and I hadn't even watched, like, a movie. I was just watching people talk on stage. Like, it's really good. This literally turned into one of my favorite plays. Like, it's so good. I'm gonna stop fangirling over it, but it's really good. Anyways, that's basically everything that was released this year that I watched this year, but ranked. I still obviously want to see Promising Young Woman. I kind of want to see Shiva's Baby. I also really want to watch Rebecca, which released on Netflix, but I want to read the book first, so, you know, I don't know when the heck I'm gonna see Rebecca, but I want to see all of those. I think those would be really good. I am positive I am missing a bunch of films that released in 2020 that I need to add to my watch list. So what are your favorite films of 2020? Because I feel like I gotta add some more films to my watch list. I really did not watch that much this year, which is not a lot, and that's kind of sad, but it's okay, it's fixable. Also, hi, these are my new bookshelves, and I am very excited about them. Can you tell? Like, ooh. I wanted to post a bookshelf tour on the second channel, but I am still editing that footage, so I guess count this as a little sneak peek. But yeah, I hope you guys like this roundup. I hope you like this ranking. Give it a big thumbs up if you did, and subscribe if you want to see more movie and fandom related content. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. See ya!